Turnover!
What is up, coaches, cheerleaders, and or warp spawn? Here today with Stephen Jarrett, back-to-back trophy recipient at the Chaos Cup and our current Chaos Cup champion. First off, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule for it.
Thanks,
And
Steve.
yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, some background first?
So I'm a Canadian Blood Bowl coach based out of Ottawa. I've been playing since 2020. So just perfectly before COVID was my first tournament in January, right before COVID. So there's a delay there in trying to learn and play tournaments, but it allowed me to play league for a year and a half or so before restrictions kind of got loosened up.
Mm-hmm.
And then hit the tournament scene hard, and I've been playing a lot since. And I have my own blog, Ask Sven Drakenspear, where I do statistical analyses, uh, and I'm a sometimes guest on the Eye of Nuffle podcast, and we'll be co-hosting that for the next 6 months. While one of the co-hosts is away in Australia.
Cool. Yeah, I have Nuffle. I know I've seen that pop up in a bunch of random places.
Yeah, it's focused on the Glam tournament series, which is Indiana, Michigan, Ontario, Quebec. So it's in Ohio, and so it's focused on kind of the Northeast region here. So obviously not as relevant to everyone else, but it's focused very much Martin and Ian on their tournament going ons. And I'm always mentioned no matter what, and either usually in derision at some point in the podcast. So,
All right, so you went all the way from the icy north down to Florida. How was your trip?
Yeah, it was long. We ended up going on Wednesday evening. Drove to Montreal, parked my car at another Blood Bowl buddy's house by the airport,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up having an exotic animal on the flight, and so they had to get another flight in and clean it. Ended up being 3 a.m. Thursday morning when we ended up getting into Orlando. My wife, my son, and I. Then went to Disney World on the Friday with my wife's father, her brother, her sister, all the kids. So there's 10 of us running around Disney. It's like herding cats when you have that many people with bathroom breaks and everything. But they all went to Disney while I was playing on the Saturday and Sunday as well. So good family trip all the way around for them.
That's cool. If someone was going to a tournament, I'm sure this is purely preferential, but would you rather do a Disney trip before the tournament or after the tournament if you could just pick?
Well, I mean, they go to Disney while I play. The tournament is the best possible scenario
Okay.
because one day of Disney was fine for me. So I got to see the Star Wars stuff. I was good.
Right. Yeah, and I know the prices at Disney have gone just over the years.
It was insane how expensive it was.
Like
I was not
$40
expecting it.
churros.
Just the in ticket is just incredible. So it's yeah, tough.
What do you usually do to prepare when you've got a big event coming up?
That's one of these challenging questions. I've, in this case, right, with Elven Union, I've only ever taken them to one other tournament.
Okay.
I am playing them in league at the moment here in Ottawa, but I've played a lot of other elves. But so I didn't actually prepare for this overly because we were
Mm-hmm.
also on Team Canada. So I was preparing more for the Euro Bowl than I was for Chaos Cup. That was my
Right.
focus. And of course, there was also a Moracle this year in Ottawa. So there was preparations. I was one of the organizers, so I was running that, also prepping because I was playing in it as well. So I actually really didn't have a lot of time to prep for Chaos Cup. So playing Elves, which I'm already familiar with, was kind of a stopgap when you're not fully able to prepare. You should go back on something you know well.
Did the experience piloting Elven Union versus other elves, did it feel super, super different for you? Obviously, you kind of start off with some like weird skills in comparison, but like not being able to crutch on ward answers or the like, did that like drastically affect how you approach the games?
For sure. And Chaos Cup had a four skill limit, skill instance limit. So your maximum dodge you could put on the team was four, which is painful when you're not starting with any dodge whatsoever, unlike with
Mm-hmm.
Dark Elves and Wood Elves. So yeah, I mean the Pro Elves are definitely the weakest elves of them, but their benefit is they are cheap, and hence I was able to get Eldril in. That was the first time I'd ever used Eldril as well. But he's a strong star. He gives you a fifth dodge and that hypnogaze, and basically he's your third catcher in this scenario, um, with dodge already built in and everything. So um, yeah, it's your ball handling's good. The Nerves of Steel, I did use it once. I only attempted one pass the whole tournament. That
Okay.
was for a one-turn touchdown attempt, which I failed. He failed the pass, so I didn't even succeed at a single pass in the whole tournament. Um, but yeah, the movement eight is very nice. Again, used to using high elf catchers, and so the movement eight is really good. Those blitzers with the sidestep are brilliant. It is just so good to have that ability to have a little bit of control. None of the other elves start with that kind of little bit of pitch control,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I played a corn coach at one point, and we'll get into that when we go to the individual games. But having the sidestep means that you are actually denying him the ability to control the sidelines the same way.
Oh yeah.
You still need to be careful with most of your players, but you can put the blitzer on the outside corner and you don't have to worry about it going off the pitch. So it allows you to actually keep control against the corn team, and against Norse. I played Norse as well. So, those pieces were brilliant and just so annoying to your opponent if they're blodgers, if they don't have tackle, particularly they can't get them down. They just go where they want. It really makes it hard for your opponent to think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I hear a lot of complaints from people about saying like 2020 is a bash edition and things like that. And obviously, exhibition is a little bit different from league play. But I mean, the agility teams put up the points and the stats in the league play. So I don't know exactly where all that comes from. Some of it might be some inexperience or things like that. Maybe it's just local metas too, and that's what they've been exposed to. But it's interesting to hear some of the lesser represented teams, putting up results. Like I think this year, there two of the tournaments I've covered were won by like Imperial Nobility. It's another one that you don't hear about, but
Yeah.
it shows up sometimes.
Yeah. Elven Union is a tough one to run in league and stuff like that. In my league, I just lost one of my skilled up blitzers. He died, or he got an agility bust, and then my Apo rolled him dead. So I chose dead because an agility bust is the same as dead essentially.
Right.
But that's the challenge with running in the league is depending on the length of the league, if you're getting those skilled up players and then they die, your team is now suddenly very far behind because you've put all that investment of your star player points into that player. And then, a game for the playoffs, suddenly your star blitzer is dead. And, that can happen to any player, of course, but it's more likely to happen to the low armor teams, especially if you're getting multiple injuries in game. You've used your apple ready to save a catcher, and then suddenly your blitzer's dead. There's not much you can do about it. And that's the challenge. It's just it's also feel bad, right? Like you spent 16 games leveling up this blitzer and he's brilliant and then he dies. It feels bad, right? It's not even that it is necessarily the end of the world for your team, but it feels bad.
Yeah. I was playing Renegades for a couple seasons and I had a Minotaur. I spent an entire season saying I'm getting block, I'm getting dodge, getting guard. That's what the season's going to be. Going to my next season, I have my Juggernaut, something or other Minotaur all built up. And then game two, he dies. I'm just like, okay, and I didn't have the budget to rebuy one immediately, and just a whole thing. But yeah, I feel your pain on a different dimension there. But um,
Yeah.
let's go over your list real quick though. You were obviously Elven Union or Pro Elves, if for those of us over 30. But
Yeah, it's always hard to know the difference. So 12 players because of Eldril as part of the team, two rerolls, leader on the one thrower that I took, two catchers, two blitzers, all with dodge, and then linemen to fill it out. You got 7 skills after you lost 2 skills for your star player.
mm-hmm.
So there was 2 wrestle linemen as well. So nothing crazy. No extras, no apothecary, no coaches, no fans, nothing.
Overall, did the wrestle linemen perform for you?
The wrestle linemen are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of upset I couldn't put dodge, but wrestle is just so good. You have just the 2 combat skills starting with the 2 blitzers, and you need more. And without being able to stack, I like being able to stack it onto the catchers because they're your mini war dancers, your other stars is those catchers. But stacking meant you lost skills. So Russell and Lyman was great. They came into play so often. Definitely an underrated part of the build is having those extra combat skills on agility 2+ pieces that, if you keep them spaced out in good positions, they can come and play anytime with a 2+ dodge in most cases and hit something with wrestle. So
that's cool.
they're
So
very good.
you're using them more like sackers, then I'm assuming they also popped up as safeties sometimes.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. All right. So you had your Disney trip. It is the morning of. You wake up. We pretend you had enough sleep. What's going through
Yep.
your head? Are you nervous? Do you feel prepared? What's going on?
No, the first thing I think of is like, my build stinks. Right. But, you go into it anyway. Way too late for that kind of discussion.
Yeah. What about it? Was there anything in particular you were like insecure about with it, or just kind of in
No,
general?
just in general that I took Elven Union at all at that point, right?
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it apparently worked, but
Yep.
all right. So you roll up to the events. One thing I loved about Chaos Cup when I was there last year were the logistics. Everything was smooth. Check in. They have all your stuff there. You just kind of walk in, grab your thing, and the communication was fantastic. So I'm assuming this year still ran smoothly.
Oh, 100%. I even checked in Friday night after we got back. I went down briefly to talk to Sean Crowley and stuff and managed to register on the Friday night. So I had all my stuff already ready in a way. So yeah, nothing problematic at all.
That's cool. Yeah, James Luft sets up amazing tournaments. He's definitely one of the top like North American TOs in my mind.
Yeah, and he's got a good team. Incredible. Those guys are not playing in the biggest tournament in North America, on a yearly basis. I hope they get to rotate in every year.
Yeah. So, what was your first game like?
Yeah, so I ended up playing Carlos Martinez, NAF name Death, which is an excellent NAF name. But it was his first tournament and
Okay.
some of his first tabletop experience. So he had played Blood Bowl 3 a bit. So he wasn't a super experienced coach by any means. He had failed to pick up on turn 1, and so I got the ball my turn 1 and stalled out for most of the half. Receiving in the second, managed to chain and score turn 4 or something like that, and just held him off for a 2-0 win on that one.
Okay. Yeah, for first tabletop tournaments, first game, It sounds like he probably learned a few things in that one, but I found that playing newer players, like I've played a lot of card games and stuff competitively, but first games at card tournaments for people tended to go way worse than first Blood Bowl games, like just because the atmosphere and people are helpful and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely coaching him through elf defense and stuff like that. And he ended up going 2-2-2. So
that's really good
clearly,
for a first one, especially for Chaos Cup.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Nice. What was your next round like?
So my next round was Matthew Paring, Mystic Force is his NAF name, and he's one of the Player to Nuffle podcast guys.
Okay.
Um, and he was playing vampires with the Vargeist and one Blitzer, two throwers and the two catchers. Yeah, again, I won the toss. I chose to kick to him. Vampires are poor on offense, relatively speaking. They're more a defensive team. So I wanted to try to use my full team to take the ball away from him. I managed to do that and stall out the first half, score 1-0. Second half, again, just kind of have the catcher in the backfield. Again, the runners are fast, but everything else is moderate speed. And you only have 6 vampires. So once you commit those forward, and you need to commit them forward because you're not scared of the thralls. Once you commit them forward, elves and Skaven and stuff like that can transition. So you keep kind of a midfield pack, and you keep a couple guys in the backfield. And once they commit enough vampires forward, you transition the ball to a catcher and he runs off down the field. So pass to someone, hand off to someone further out the field, and then you're gone. When he's down 1-0 already, he has to try and force something. So again, once you get that commitment forward, you transition, and the vampires are out of position now. It's hard to get the ball off you. So again, stalled that one out for the 2-0 victory as well.
Cool. Were you ever tempted to go for the 3-0 for the overscore, or were you happy just kind of playing it safe?
No, very happy to play it safe. Vampires particularly, they can do a lot of things. Even if you're receiving the ball, if he's blitzing you or something like that, you're giving up. So if he can score quickly, the vampires can score quickly, and then he's kicking to you, he hits a blitz or something like that, you could end up losing the game 2-2 or drawing the game 2-2. And in Chaos Cup, you get one draw, you're still in it. You get 2 and you're not winning the tournament now. So you want to avoid them as much as possible. So 2-0 win is, I'll take that any day of the week. And you'll see I took it a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that's solid. I know a lot of agility coaches that get really aggressive about it and have kind of well, if I score 2 and, or score like 3, then they can't catch up, but I've also taken advantage of that sometimes too. So
yeah, anything can happen on the kickoff. You just don't want, pitch invasion or any of these kind of things that really hinder your ability to suddenly you're on the back foot.
Well, being on the favorable side of removals too, sometimes you want to maintain that because all it takes is one line of scrimmage to completely screw that up.
Yep.
And between the second and third rounds that y'all got the lunch break?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 4 games on the first day.
What's the meta of the Chaos Cup lunch break?
Well, I went with my Team Canada teammate Ivan, and we went for chicken. He had the good chicken place. There's a decent length of time for doing it. So he had found this great fried chicken place. So we went for fried chicken lunch. For me, food is so crucial. When I'm traveling and all that kind of stuff, I want good food. When I'm playing games, I don't want to be hungry. I want to be satisfied. And good food is just one of these things. It's one of the essentials of life for me. So
like my favorite part about traveling. If I could travel, if I could fly to Europe to eat lunch and fly back in a reasonable amount of time for reasonable cost, I would every day. But
yeah, Yeah, agree.
All right, so you're fueled back up. We're hitting round 3. How's it look?
Yeah, so I hit Nico of Team Finland,
Okay.
NAF name Rat Ogre, and quite appropriately, he's playing Skaven with a Rat Ogre. Um, so, very strong opponent. Right off the bat, you can see from his play and how he's utilizing things that this is not going to be easy. He kills a blitzer on his first blitz of the game. So immediately I'm down some elves. He ended up going on with 4 casualties, which was the most I suffered of any game over the course of the tournament, plus lots of knockouts and stuff. So it was not the easiest game. We ended up with a whole bunch of shenanigans, ball going back and forth, fighting over the ball. End of the first half, I failed pickup with my thrower. I'm out of rerolls. And so all he's got to do is clear off the thrower off the ball, pick it up with one gutter runner, hand it to the other gutter runner, and then make 2 go for it into the end zone. And he 1 and 9's the block using a reroll. And then he picks it up, hands it off, goes for the first go for it, rolls a 1, uses his second reroll, last reroll, and gets it, goes for the goal line, rolls 1. So, he's unfortunate not to go into the half at 1 up. Second half, I'm down elves substantially here. And so I managed to shift side to side, get a line down the side. He does a double screen, really gives me no good options. Eldra comes up, hypnogazes the front guy in the screen. Catcher comes in, 1 die, blitzes without a combat skill. The back one out, and I do 2 GFIs with the catcher into the end zone for the first score. So I just need to take the score. I'm down elves. I'm hoping to get a couple KOs back, and particularly out of blitzer. My other blitzer was off, so I needed to get him back, hopefully. So early score. So, he wants to win. He doesn't want to draw. Again, same thing. Draws not going to do you any good if you get too many of them. So I get a blitz on the kickoff. I'm putting pressure into his half. And so he goes to try and do a quick score. He flubs the pickup with the catcher, with the thrower, and just a 1-9 with the sure hands. And a blitzer is in range. He's all stacked up with all his guys. Catcher comes in again without a combat skill. 1 die, blitzes a piece off. And then the blitzer goes through tackle zone, gets the ball in a tackle zone, 2 GFIs and a dodge into the end zone to go up 2-0 at that point. So again, he can feel a little bit unhappy about failing the 1 and 9, and then have me come in with elf bullshit to score 2-0. Now he really needs to go fast if he wants to just tie the game at this point. So he sets up for the 1 turn, which I think is exactly the right play. He gets all the blocks he needs to push the gutter runner into range. And then he snakes the go for it, the first go for it to go into the end zone. The gutter runner's stunned at that point. And so I just pick up the ball, and I'm just playing keep away in my backfield with very few elves left. And so the game ends 2-0 again. Less, not the same script as the other 2, but the same result at the end, 2-0.
Yeah, that's really harsh. Hypothetically,
yeah, for sure.
Hypothetically, if those rushes went a little bit better, do you think the game would have gone drastically differently?
100% right. He wouldn't have needed to go fast in the second half there, right? He could have gone much more conservative because all he would need is 1 score to win, right?
Yeah.
So he was looking at it, I need 2 scores to win. So he had to go faster, which means he wasn't covering the ball the same way. He would have happily brought most of his team back and, defended the ball, secured the pickup easier. He had to go fast, and so he had to be a little more loose, and the elves did elf things to him. So yeah, if he had 2 rerolls on turn 8 in the first half there. He has every reason to be unhappy about not getting that score. I mean, it took a little bit of luck because I dropped the ball and all that kind of stuff. I could have been deep in his backfield with the catcher if my thrower had picked up the ball and passed it. So there's both ways there, but he definitely between the two rerolls in turn 8 not getting the score there, and then the me getting the score on him when he couldn't pick up the ball, and then the snake again, he had every reason to be unhappy with his dice in that one for sure.
Well, it sounds like Nuffle front loaded his dice luck with killing your blitzer early. So
yeah, and he got quite a few removals over the course of the game. So
you said 4 removals, and that was the most that happened. Like, are your elves just like, do they have a magical force field or something? Because that's blowing my mind a little bit. Are you just positioning so that you're denying a ton of blocks, or what's the story there?
Yeah, I mean, elves can punch you. If you're not standing up, you're getting 1 blitz a turn. Theoretically, that's 16 blocks over the course of the game. You're not going to get a ton of casualties. You're going to get your line blocks, you're going to get your blitz. Otherwise, you're not giving them many blocks. And of course, as soon as you've stolen the ball, their focus correctly is on trying to get the ball back rather than maximizing all their blocks, right? If you're driving down the pitch and you have the ball, you're maximizing your blocks. That's your whole turn is structured around maximizing your blocks. You've lost the ball. It's not about maximizing your blocks anymore. It's about getting the ball back. And that means that you're not maximizing your blocks the same way anymore. And so the elves survive better because, you're tagging things and stuff that you don't necessarily want to tag normally that give you the advantage, but you need to in order to just try and get the ball back.
So what I'm gathering from this is if you're playing elves, you should block a lot. And if the opponent has the ball, you should just try punching them instead. It's sound advice.
Yeah, I mean, there's times I played a league game recently against Chaos Dwarves, and I punched the bejesus out of them on my way to the end zone. So you can do it. You can definitely do it. You're strength 3.
That's cool. That's interesting perspective. Okay. All right. So round 4 was end of day 1, correct?
Yes, the last game of things, and I come up against John Lackey, Saul, the Chaos Cup champion of last year. So I was looking forward to that match because last year, right, if there had been around 7, I would have gotten to play him to see about winning it. So thankful to get the opportunity before round 7 to actually play him because I knew I need to do it. So I'm on 3-0. He's on 2 wins and a draw. He's just played Mike Coons, the 3rd place coach from last year, and he's played it to a draw. So he's now already on a draw. 2 wins, so he knows he needs to win. So must have been the bottom of the 3-0 coaches playing him on 2 wins and a draw. So he's playing Orcs this year, not Skaven, and he wins the toss, selects to receive quite correctly, and so we end up with a big contest trying to get down the pitch. He's removing elves. He did 3 casualties over the course of the game, with a requisite number of KOs as well. But early on, I get a 1-die blitz. Eldril makes Hypnogaze to give me a 1-die blitz on his ball carrier, pop the ball out, and it goes straight to a biggin who catches it on a 6.
Okay.
So now we start passing the biggin around. It's all 2-die uphills because we're in the scrum, but the sidestep blitzers are allowing themselves to be in there, and they're getting the 2-die uphill hits. After the 4th one, we get the biggin down as well. We've lost a lot of elves getting to this point. And unfortunately, when he goes down, the ball goes into the scrum instead of bouncing out of the scrum. So it doesn't really help me. He does a clever chain push on turn 8, pick up the ball with Blitzer and make the GFI into the end zone in order to score with the thrower on turn 8. This is the game where I attempt the 1 turn. I'm a very few elves here, so I need all of them on the line. I need Eldril to actually Hypnogaze a piece. So when the ball goes way back in my end zone, the thrower has to do a full long pass because I don't have any elves to normally you'd pass it to an elf that's closer to the line and then hand it off but I have no elves available for that. They need them all for the 3 pushes online. So I fail the 5+ pass to end the first half. So the second half, I'm down elves again. So John puts the pressure on hard after I get the ball. I manage to hand off to a catcher who's in a tackle zone and dodge out. I make a whole bunch of GFIs and stuff to create a screen behind his lines after blitzing a little hole. And we're in a situation where I just basically am going to need to look to score again quickly. So John makes a slight mistake in that he doesn't move all his players back. He starts the whole turn off. We all have done it. You know, you're very focused on this is what I need to do, all this kind of stuff, and you don't do the smart moves first. But he double skulls, re-rolls it into another set of double skulls. So, you know, it's hard to legislate for double skull, re-roll double skull, but you need to do it. And so it just it relieves all the pressure. The elves all go in the backfield, create wide screen. And so even though I'm down so many elves, we're in a situation where we can stall it out. So we stall it out. Turn 6, I'd use 2 rerolls just to get the GFIs to create the kind of screen. I use another reroll on a double skull. And so I'm sitting in a situation with no rerolls. I could dodge around to create another screen, but without rerolls, I only have 2 dodge pieces left or no carrying the ball. And so I can't reliably do it. So I score on my turn 6, giving him 3 turns to reply back. Again, down elves here. And so we end up with the elf columns, but of course the wide side isn't there. The ball had gone out of bounds on the kickoff, so he got to give it right to the blitzer as well. It was a deep, deep kick too, and it would have been beautiful if it stayed in.
Right.
But changing weather, it was off. There's no chance of it. So he comes along. He has to reposition on turn 15, kind of solidly in the middle. But of course, because he's had to come from the side, he's kind of strained all his movement to do it with lots of GFIs. So one catcher comes along, tags the ball on the cage. Eldril just needs to hypnogaze a big one, and I have a 1-die blitz with a free wrestle lineman, and Eldril snakes the hypnogaze at this point. So I can't get the blitz in. The rest of the piece repositions, and I go for a 5+ cage dive with blitzer for a 2-die uphill just to push him. He needs a GFI already. And I fail the dodge in for that. Maybe I should have just put it in a safe place rather than trying to go for the blitz on the ball. But value added, it's hard to see afterwards necessarily.
Right.
So he's got 1 reroll left from his starting 4, and he needs to clear off some guys. 1 and 9's one of the big in blocks, and so he has to use the reroll there. After chaining it all out, he needs 1 GFI to go into the end zone to win it 2-1, and he rolls a 1 on the GFI into the end zone. So another fortunate situation where I end up with a draw in the really tough match. But you know,
what was his preferred expletive at that point?
Yeah, he was, had a hard time with that one for sure. But again, you can look at the dice luck and a variety of points where his Biggin caught the ball, where the scatter in the first half, or I could have been one up on his drive very easily. And then Eldril snaking that hypnogaze to take away that 1-die blitz on his ball on that turn as well. So there's good luck, bad luck floating around.
Well, a lot of scenarios, but good play forces die rolls too. So if either of y'all hadn't been positioning as well as I assume y'all were, then you wouldn't have had to been doing that stuff in the first place. So that is definitely part of it. It's also Blood Bowl, so there's that certain degree.
It just sucks to get to that last point and then roll the 1 into the end zone, right?
That's kind of the kick I've been on with. I haven't gotten to play a ton for the last couple months, but is respecting possibility. So, if the gutter runner's completely out of reach of your pieces, it's a 0% chance that he's going down. But if you can rush into it or do something, or I think we've all probably seen the goblin jumps into the middle of the cage for no reason, does the uphill, and then takes the ball out. If that can happen, obviously preventing the chance of it even occurring is such a significant thing. And when you have two really skilled coaches going against each other, those possibilities just kind of hover around and linger. So it does bring up the dice a lot more, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay. So your day one is done. How are you feeling so far? Are you feeling confident, I assume?
Tired, brain's a little bit mush.
Yeah.
Feeling fortunate. I had 2 games there where I came out on the right side of the dice for sure. Strong play from both coaches in the end there, and both can feel a little aggrieved at the dice, and I can feel beneficial that the dice have gone my way a little bit in those ones. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm going, I'm 3 wins and a draw.
Mm-hmm.
If the number one coach goes 6 wins, there's no chance of me winning the tournament. And I'm also looking at opponent score as being so crucial at this point for kind of where things play out in these last day. And so even if I win my next game, I'm not even sure I'm going to make it into that top 4 and have a chance to even place at the tournament. Every chance that I win my next game and I'm sitting 5th and I'm not in that top 4 to have a chance at first place.
Well, you mentioned being the bottom 3-0. At that point, are you starting to factor in kind of hunting down some bonus points?
Well, opponent's score was the first tiebreaker, and after that it was touchdowns. So I was doing fine on touchdowns,
Mm-hmm.
not sitting at the top of the tournament by any means, but not no slouch at all in the touchdown department. With at that point 7, but yeah, no, it's the opponent's score. So you're just hoping that
Gotcha.
your previous 4 opponents there have a really good round 5 and give you a strong opponent score to put you into that top table at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially with your last 2 opponents, then they're probably at the very bare minimum they're putting up a fight. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
All right. So did you actually sleep that night?
Yeah, I actually slept pretty well. My wife and my son were exhausted, so they were putting up no fight for wanting anything. Went for dinner with because they were still at Disney World at Magic Kingdom, and so went for dinner with a bunch of the Canadians and Vanderby, and we had steak and chatted and went back into the room and went to bed. So got a decent night's sleep for sure.
Cool. All right. Next morning, last day. When you're waking up, are you feeling any pressure? Like, do you feel more confident piloting your team since you got some kind of sweatier games in with them?
Yeah, I know I'm enjoying the elves as well. I enjoy elves play in general, and so yeah, I've the fears around my Elven Union build are gone in large part. So it's I'm definitely feeling more confident about the strength of the team going into the final 2 matches.
Cool. All right. So we hit round 5.
Yeah, so I end up hitting Ivan. His NAF name is Bad Cuz. He is another Team Canada. I had lunch with him the previous day. And so he's from BC. So just recently spent a whole bunch of time with Ivan in Greece, Eurobowl and stuff. So it was unfortunate to be sitting across from a friend and a Team Canada teammate in round 5 because no matter what, one of us needs to win to have a shot at that top table. And you're taking away, if you're winning, you're taking away his chance. And he knows if he wins, he's taking away your chance. So
Right.
that sucks, but it's Blood Bowl. All past team allegiances have to go aside, and you need to do what you need to do to win the individual tournament. So Ivan's playing Corn. So
Okay.
this is a challenging match because if his dice can go well on armor breaks and all that kind of stuff, I could end up with very little team left. But yeah, he struggles with the ball carrying right off the first turn, and we get in and cause all kinds of problems with the sidestep. And so we eventually do get the ball in the first half as well, having him receive it. And so we ended up looking to stall again just as long as possible. And his armor rolls are not strong, so he's not removing me at all. He ends up with one casualty the entire game. The ref was my best friend. At some point, he's trying to use fouling to get attrition, and he got caught the first foul. Coach was ejected. Second foul, caught again. At one point, right after the second touchdowns in the second half is pretty obvious. He's just fouling to have some fun, and the ref's just ejecting every piece that's trying. Yeah. So it ends up as a 2-0 victory again. Similar situation where to the first two games where I take the ball and I sit on it as long as I can in the first half. Score late, score on my drive as late as possible, and sit for that 2-0 victory.
Out of curiosity, what was he running for his ball carrier option?
He did not have any sure hands or extra arms or any kind of ball carrying skills. He had frenzy on a corn gore.
Okay.
And so blocking guard, he had two guards and a bunch of block on the big guy. It's great against bash teams, but against elves, if you're not picking that ball up, it's problematic. But he had been 3 wins and a draw thus far. So, and that was to be his only loss was that game. So,
yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about playing a skilled teammate. If y'all are fighting for first, is you can be like, well, I did lose to the guy who won, so that's your consolation prize.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Rat Ogre, his only loss was to me, and Ivan's only loss was to me as well. So, and then the eventual going into round 6, I'm up against a Floridian coach, Rivers Fury, and he's playing Norse, and he's the only 5-0 coach. So the opponent score from all my opponents has given me second at that point, which gives me top table. And with Chaos Cup rules, only the top 2 tables can win the tournament, no matter what the results are anywhere else. And if you're on top table and you win top table, you win the tournament.
Nice.
Regardless of anything else. So I'm on top table. So my opponent's score has done what it needed it to do, and it's given me top table. I win the game. I win the tournament. That's it. So I'm in a fortunate position that way that my previous opponents have all done well and pushed my opponent's score up to give me that shot. And so he's playing Norse. He's got the Chaos Cup stars, so it's like a strength 4 lineman with jump up and dauntless, and a bear with frenzy and mighty blow, and unchanneled fury. So it's got a lot of strength. He's got the Ulfs and the strength 4 piece and the bear. So a lot of frenzy, similar to with corn, right? The sidestep, being able to put it on the wings really prevents you from kind of going through. So he wins the kickoff, elects to receive. He's put prehensile tail, so in Chaos Cup as well, final round, you get to put 2 mutations on unskilled linemen. So he puts prehensile tail on 2 linemen. It's a good choice, making that dodges harder for me. I was kind of between horns. I was thinking if I had a high armor opponent, maybe claw. But when I ended up being Norse, I just decided on foul appearance on a couple of linemen. Maybe it causes some problem on a turn. It did not come in to effect once he did not roll the foul appearance. So, maybe I should take in horns or something.
Did prehensile tail come into play?
It changed how I played. I didn't fail any dodges away from it, but I did purposely blitz the prehensile tailpiece to get it off pieces. So
Okay.
it changed how I played slightly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, again, he gets the ball. I managed to use Eldril's Hypnogaze to open up a hole, get the ball out from his ball carrier, and we're in the same scenario again. I stall until turn 6, my turn 6. He's got 2 turns to score. The elf columns form, and he has no way of getting through it. So we end up 1-0 going into the second half. He's also struggling to remove elves at this point. And so we end up receiving the ball, again, stalling as long as possible to score late, and don't give him a chance to come back at all. So it's another 2-0 victory. So all 5 victories were 2-0 victories in the end.
That's crazy. All right, so you put in a lot of work. Again, with the Chaos Cup rules, you know that you've won. How do you feel immediately after that game?
A little shocked, actually. When I stripped the ball in the first half, the script had played many times before, so I was thinking like I have a really strong chance of winning Chaos Cup now. Halfway through the first half, kind of idea. So yeah, it's not really sunk in greatly, but yeah, and all my games end pretty quickly. The elves' turns go quickly, so none of my games were anywhere near the 2 hours 20-minute timeline. So we were one of the first games done, which kind of makes the anticlimactic. So many often, right? You have people crowding around top table, but they're all like, "Top table's done? What?" Yeah, all my Canadian colleagues are all hugging me when they finish the games and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good feeling. All the congratulations and everything starting to flow.
Cool. How did it feel when you finally go up there and you grab the trophy and you're like He-Manning it up in the air?
Yeah, it's a great moment. Everyone wants to have that picture of you He-Manning it up. My eyes look like I'm closed in the pictures, of course, so that I don't know if they're the best pictures in the world. But yeah, it's a great feeling to be the one who gets to do it.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I saw a little bit of a video and the crowd was going nuts, which is kind of to be expected at an event like that, but he definitely worked for it. And it's Nuffle was on your side a little bit, but again, I don't think, not that I think people are just going to massively discount you anyway, but again, to force someone to where they have to try to rush in the first place or they have to do a block to do a thing that's crucial, like it takes positioning and it takes skill to set that up in the first place. And that kind of thing's really important. But obviously what you did worked. I mean, you're playing a team that from the sounds of it you're still pretty fresh with, even if it was an archetype you were similar with, and you were kind of uncertain. And I guess now, how would you feel about picking Elven Union versus any of the other elves going into events? Do you think we'll see them pop up more?
Yeah, no, the sidestep on the blitzers is brilliant. That's the only reason to take the team over other teams,
Okay.
realistically. And theoretically, if you wanted that, you could take wood elves, you could put sidestep on both war dancers, and you'd end up with the same. If that's what you wanted, you could have better results probably. Still with that. Because you're not getting the tackle and strip ball on this Elven Union team. So if you're giving it up on the wood elves, it's essentially the same thing. So yeah, I don't know. Realistically, right, the other time I took Elven Union, it was because you got to pay for skills. So I was able to put like 21 skills on the Elven Union team, and like the 3 linemen the 3 line fodder had no skills, but everything else had blodge or wodge, and the linemen were like wrestle strip ball and all that kind of crazy stuff. So that's the only reason that they've kind of appealed to me, is being able to be slightly cheaper, and so being able to fit them in on like more unique builds. Otherwise, wood elves and dark elves and even high elves are just vastly superior. Elven Union have the weakest stats. Your linemen are cheaper, but you're also in the situation where They are also the lowest armor of any of the pieces. Your catchers, Nerves of Steel is not brilliant, right? Like it comes into play. It came into play once, where I made it a 2+ catch instead of a 3+ catch in one of the games. You're just not going to need it 90% of the time.
Right.
So it's not a brilliant skill. When they could pass on a 2+, when those catches could pass on 2+, Nerves of Steel was brilliant because then you could run around, you could throw with those catchers with the Nerves of Steel. So that was really good. But just receiving, it's not brilliant. It's really the sidestep blitzers that are the reason if you're going to be taking them skill wise, because otherwise the rest of the team is just weaker than all the other elves.
Okay, so I want to stress again that you got champion this year, you had a runner up last year. You managed to take the champion from last year in the process of your run this time too. How does Chaos Cup, because I know Canada has some good events, and I know that there's some dedicated Canadian players that pop up at our bigger events down here. In terms of the level of competition, would you say that obviously once you get past round 2 is probably when you really start getting ranked? I don't want to say appropriately, but more even skill level. How would you say the sweatiness of Chaos Cup ranks to some of the other bigger events you've been to?
Yeah, I had 4 incredibly strong opponents to kind of finish things off. And my second round opponent was no slouch, podcast host, knows his Blood Bowl and stuff like that. So it's definitely not easy to win any of these tournaments. You can definitely luck out, right, and have a few easy games, and then not really face a super strong coach until a later round because of the fact there's just so many coaches in a large tournament for sure. So there's always that. If the field's small but it's full of really strong coaches, that's a harder tournament potentially to win, even because every single one of your games is super hard. So it really depends on your kind of local meta and who's shown up to the tournament. A great example of that is the Underworld Cup, run by Flying Dingle in Michigan, and it attracts all the top U.S. coaches, and it takes all the top Ontario coaches. So it is an incredibly strong field. I would say Underworld Cup is one of those hardest tournaments to win probably in North America, because of the strength of the field is so high at that tournament. So there's definitely an element where you have so many coaches that you can get an easy buy, but there's definitely not guaranteed by any means. You can get drawn against someone who's it's their first kind of tabletop experience, or you could get drawn, John Lackey in the first round, right? Or Delvis or Frozen Flame, and you're not having an easy match at all, right? So you definitely have the entire strength of the U.S. field at Chaos Cup, and then the Canadians that came down. There's a whole bunch of us. We had the Finnish guy, Nico, that I played, Rat Ogre. Top player is an Italian who's there as well. So it attracts big names from the adjacent thing. So it is a very strong field as well. So once you maybe luck out in the first couple rounds and not face a top opponent, but if you're winning Chaos Cup, you have to go through top coaches at the end of the day.
All right. I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me here. Are there any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Yeah, big shout outs to all my opponents. They were all lovely through it. Big shout out to James Luft and his team, who run an amazing Chaos Cup again 2 years in a row. And there's no indication that the subsequent Chaos Cups run by James Luft will be anything other than absolutely excellent. So it's fantastic to have the U.S. major in very capable hands. And so big shout out to the whole team there. Shout out to all of the people who've helped me get to the place I'm at. you don't become a Blood Bowl player in a vacuum. You got to learn from playing coaches, and the coaches in my local area in Glam are really strong coaches, and so shout out to all of my local opponents and all that kind of stuff who have made me the Blood Bowl player that I am today.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you see at Chaos Cup that's done that you would like to see, like just logistically, pop up at other tournaments?
Well, I mean, the BBTM app is, big shout out to Sean H. 1986 for developing that for the Oracle Cup this year. It was implemented for Chaos Cup, and it's an excellent tournament app. Tour Play is a fantastic league resource, but you don't need a lot of the features that Tour Play has in a tournament context. The Blood Bowl Tournament Manager that he's developed is a fantastic tool for tournaments. It breaks it down to being just what you need to run a tournament, and it's quite user friendly. And Sean does a great job of answering any questions or anything like that. So he was there for tech support for James and stuff like that, and it's just an excellent tool. So I encourage people to check it out. Sean's not charging a gajillion dollars to use it. He's just looking for donations for his server fees and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fantastic resource for anyone who's looking to use tournament software.
Cool. Yeah, tournament software has definitely helped out. I just ran, it was a smaller Gutter Bowl tournament at a convention earlier, but I've been talking a lot to the creator of the Death Pitch app, and he's been rolling out some tournament software too. So I'm glad to see Blood Bowl going that direction. I think it helps keep things a little more organized. And personally, I've been to, I want to say, at least 5 tournaments where experienced TOs were using Score and something just goes wrong. Pairings crash something and then they have to do things, which I think Score has done its job, but maybe we're looking at advancing a little bit here, especially if we're hearing good stuff about these other things at these bigger events.
Yeah,
and I got
for sure.
One final question for you. Last year, I asked about what should a beginning coach do. This year, I'm going to ask you, let's say someone's an intermediate coach. Maybe they've done a few events. Maybe they've been in some leagues. They've hit up a tournament or two. How do they go from those middle bottom tables up to the top tables?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when you're starting out, it's all about getting the positioning right, getting, learning how to do your drive to score and prevent your opponent from scoring. Those are the basics of Blood Bowl. To get from that intermediate position into a top level coach, it's really about the bigger planning. It's not about figuring out how to do a 2-die block anymore, right? You've got that down. It's all about structuring the game. And when you score, when your opponents score, figuring out the game state and what you need to happen this drive, this half, talking about in those games, right? All 2-0 wins. It wasn't about anything other than trying to focus on the victory and structuring the game around what I needed, what I could control. And so I could control the game to a 2-0 victory. Whereas, if you're in a situation like my opponent Rat Ogre was there, right? And he's looking to at least draw, if not win, you need to figure out the game state. I need to get the score quickly, and I need to do this in order to have the victory, in order for the tournament to go. So it's getting those next level points of, your drive, your tournament, and then even figuring out, okay, my opponent's score, like the draws, like all this kind of stuff. I can't have more than one draw. So if you once you have that first draw, you have to do absolutely everything to get that next win. The draw will not do you any good. You're out of the tournament now. So those are the next level thinking that you need to go from learning how to do your drive, learning how to do your blocking and your positioning. It's all about structuring the entire game and thinking about the big picture plan of how you're going to do your drive, how you're going to basically control the game and the way you need to do it.
So the TLDR is every action you take serves the grander plan.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, that's really good advice. Thanks again for showing up. And yeah, I'll throw a link to your blog in the bottom there. You've been a great resource for a lot of people in the community for a while now. And it's cool to see that it's worth it for Canada to come down to US tournaments. And I think after this, second place Team America and Euro Bowl, I'm hoping to see more of those bridges, between the different placings. And as the game grows and grows, it's cool to see that happen. But thanks again.
Yeah, I mean, huge shout out for Team US for finishing second. That was great. And we actually played them extensively in round after round after round of Fumble leading up to that. So it was definitely we're time zone friends in this case. So it's definitely there's lots of ties in our community together as well.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. Take care, Steve.
Turnover!